Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Julia Miller. Welcome to my house in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Julia Miller. Welcome to my house in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So the home is a 1920s colonial. It's in a neighborhood that is nestled right up to the Mississippi River. And we purchased the home in 2013. And when we first saw the house, we knew that the potential was there, but there was a lot to be done to make it kind of shine again. And so we took a long time to plan a meaningful renovation that respected, the existing architecture and really made sure that we didn't add too much square footage that we didn't need, and really worked hard to plan a meaningful project. And so the home, has had many iterations over the last couple of years, but the big renovation project started in 2018 and concluded in 2019. And within that project, we renovated the kitchen and we added on some square footage in the back to create a little eat-in space with a wood stove and a mudroom, and then a really large screen porch. This is our main living room. Being that it's a 1920s colonial, it is long and narrow, you can see. And this room really functions in so many ways for my family. It's our main TV space, it's our main entertaining space, and it's our main reading chill space. So the footprint of the room stayed the same. That's all original. We worked with what we had, but the biggest change that we made was to the fireplace. So historically, the fireplace was about 14 inches deeper than what it is now, which made it really impossible to get a furniture arrangement that allowed for any sort of conversation. So typically this room was more of a formal living room back when the home was built, with a space for a formal piano. And so they weren't really thinking about, kind of maximizing furniture like we are today. And so by slimming up the fireplace profile, so we reduced it to 6 inches overall for the mantle, that really allowed us to then get in 2 additional furniture pieces, which allows for so much more conversation and so much more flexibility of the space. This room was a complicated puzzle to put together furniture-wise, and I feel like we tried every different furniture arrangement, and we landed here and we're super happy. This area over here is more of our reading nook. Both of my kids in the morning come down and sit in these alpaca reupholstered vintage chairs, and they kind of have their morning wake up over here. As we transition to what I call kind of the main part of the living space, super deep, comfortable sofa that accommodates all 4 of my family members, which is great. By kind of reupholstering it over time, which, as you can see, we've done it in a contrast fabric for the seat cushions and the back cushions. We're just trying to maximize the life we can get out of this particular sofa. Again, space is limited, so we've maximized our lighting opportunities and kind of came up with as many creative lighting solutions as we possibly can. So lighting is something that's super critical and so important for every single space. I would say it is the hill I die on for every project. And collecting lighting from many different sources, mixing new with vintage, I think gives you the best possible chance at having your home feel more collected over time than just bought all at once. And so this light is by Valerie Objects. It's a new production light. It's very simple in form. It's got this porcelain shade with this unlacquered brass kind of arm. And it really allows, us to have, like I said, the maximum amount of space so we don't have a base to deal with, but gives really great illumination for reading on the sofa. Lighting over here, given that this is again a narrow walkway, we're thinking about like projections and how far out things can be. And so this is an alabaster light by Allied Maker, and it kind of gives just a nice glow, kind of washes the wall, really ambient lighting. We always have, you know, table lamps and floor lamps, both of which are vintage. We changed out the shades on this one to have just like a little patterned stripe. So don't forget your lamp shades. They can be a moment as well. And then moving into sconces. So sconces are another area for, you know, lots of kind of ambient and task lighting as well. And these are vintage 1960s Italian fixtures. In this corner over here, we have a handmade light by one of our favorite LA designers, Blanche Jelly. And then over here is one of our another favorite vendors. This little swing arm sconce allows like flexibility for where you want it, and the shade can kind of tilt. And that light is by Lumfardo. The palette for this house was kind of established to reflect the outside in. So we are huge proponents of looking at the natural world and seeing what lies outside for inspiration for what should come inside. So we live in a wooded area. There's a river just right across the way. And so the palette and the textures and the color all came kind of from outside. And so we built that in strategically to the furniture pieces as well. And Minneapolis is a 4-season climate. So having spaces and pieces that were flexible and could, you know, kind of change throughout the seasons or, you know, stand the test of time through the seasons was really important as well. So, you know, we picked up small prints like this little Jasper print that we put on these chairs. It's more of a block print, still very, very earthy, and just kind of gives, you know, kind of a nice overall pattern sort of feel to the space. The rug is a plum colored rug hand woven by some women in South Africa. So kind of the way that, you know, spaces come together is also through like collecting and relationships and knowing people. And so having things in our home that came from people that I know and work with all the time was really special. So this rug was hand woven by them in South Africa. And then the textiles just kind of have been collected over time again as well, but trying to tie, you know, more of an earthy palette together with these ochre colors, you know, adding in a stripe for another print opportunity was important as well. So art in my home is ever evolving. There are a couple of pieces that have stood the test of time, but truth be told, we don't have a ton of wall space. So what we do have is important to us. And this piece, I go to Round Top, Texas a lot to curate vintage pieces for our client projects. And I saw this piece and I connected with, I don't know, not only the woman that's there, but also the palette and the wood frame. And so it kind of lives here on our fireplace. But I will say things do kind of float around. So sometimes she lives there, sometimes she's hung on a wall, but in general, this piece of art just kind of had that instant connection. So similar to the chair profiles, particularly on this half of the room, I wanted things to feel light and not so heavy given the fact that we're working with a really narrow space. So, but I still wanted a lot of texture and a lot of interest, and again, a natural material in here. So I opted for this Calcutta coffee table with these beautiful oak legs. And it's styled pretty simply, mostly because I have kids and the coffee table is ever evolving. So for today, I've placed some of my favorite books that, you know, kind of paging through both for inspiration and as well as just kind of color and interest. Never without a beautiful pack of matches for candles, both on the coffee table or the side table. And then the piece that does stay on here every day is this vintage chessboard. And I'm gonna disclose right now, I don't play chess, but you probably do, and you will notice it's not arranged, you know, how it should be. So this is my best guess. But my kids play chess with my husband all the time, with their friends all the time, and it's a really great thing to just have out for anybody to play whenever they want. The next kind of piece of the room, so the room is kind of in 3 separate phases, I think, like the little reading nook, then the main living space, and then the TV. So TV is obviously something that's really important. Everybody wants one, me included. And finding a spot for the TV that was not above the fireplace was important to me because I wanted you to be able to have an experience in the room that was not centered on the TV. And so our TV is just a 43-inch, so it's not huge, and it's mounted over this burl wood and leather credenza made by Rummler. And what I like about it is, again, adds in another texture, another beautiful material, anchors the space, but doesn't necessarily take up a ton of physical space itself. And then we kind of place these little ottomans for, just kind of finishing off the vignette, as well as additional seating if you're playing chess or just kind of hanging out in the living room. The other element of the room that I really like is we have radiators. And so one of the things that I wanted to do early on was just kind of cover them with a beautiful natural wood. So these are white oak kind of cover. And what that does is I think it creates a really clean line in the space, and it allows for us to display more things like books and little trinkets that we've kind of collected over time without sacrificing any of the function of the radiator itself. So my transition into interior design is a little uncharacteristic in some ways. My first career was in clinical social work. And in that role, I served clients mostly in a home-based capacity, meaning that I would go to them and I would kind of, figure out what in their environment was working for them and wasn't working for them, and try to really maximize, their ability to thrive at home. And I think that foundation of work really helped me springboard myself into interior design, because I feel like there's so many components of interior design where you're listening and you're putting together the pieces to create a space that works not only for the client, but also works well in the community and the situation that the home is in. And so, social work, while maybe unrelated in some ways, really helped me provide a framework around how I think about how homes are created and the importance of what functions need to be in the home in order for it to best serve the clients. So come with me to our dining room. So the dining room is, again, original in footprint. We didn't adjust anything on the length or the width of the room, and carved out kind of this more formal dining room at the front of the house. And so we kept that. And what I like about it is we get great natural light from the front of the house. This window, which was original, kind of floods this room with great light. So it's one of my favorite rooms to be in. One thing about our house is we have 3 spaces to dine, and that was intentional because we host a lot, and like I mentioned, I have kids. And so there's always kind of a collection of people in and out of our house. And so this space is more reserved for, kind of our friends coming over and having a nicer dinner. But truth be told, on any given day, it is also the art table for my kids. So as the renovation of the house kind of came into fruition, one of the things that a 1920s colonial lacks is storage. And so part of the goal was kind of Tetrising in as much storage as we could get in this house without it feeling like it was just filled with cabinets. And so it is a really open concept home now. And so by continuing the cabinets from what is our refrigerator and kind of signals the end of the kitchen to the start of the dining, all is the same cabinetry profile, the same color on the lowers, and then, kind of bringing back that oak that's also seen on our main pantry. And that was all intentional to tie together these spaces, given that it is open concept and you see them all at the same time. But the function is really different. So, we have, kind of some liquor storage up here that we kind of made a little fancy with some marble shelves and this kind of brass galley rail. And then just, again, another opportunity to display some things that we love and eke out some of that really important function. We use this area for, kind of buffet and serving and, holiday decor and all of that sort of stuff. So this space is kind of a heavy hitter for our family as well. So similar to other areas of the home, collecting pieces and having pieces that have, character and interesting shape was something that was important in the dining room as well. So this is a vintage Kalim rug that I just got on Etsy. This, kind of that ochre stripe is carried, that color is carried through other parts of the house and just kind of creates a fun, kind of pattern moment for this space. The rug also helps to kind of delineate, given again, it's an open concept house. So having a spot for, the dining table to be centered on a rug really helps to also create a sense of place. The dining table was designed by myself and made by a local furniture maker, Roven Furniture. They do a lot of our custom furniture pieces now, and this table is solid walnut and is, hard wearing and, one of the things that I personally cherish the most since it was one of the first things I designed ever. And then the chairs are vintage. They're the Razorback chair, and what I love about them is just this kind of really sculptural, fun shape. They're really comfortable, really easy to use, and super sturdy. I love things that are handmade. I love the idea of a story and that someone put their time and energy into creating something that they kind of thought themselves. And so this candle holder is something that lives perennially on this dining table. And what I love about it is it's sculptural, it's interesting, it's got a lot of fun, even like little details on it, even some of like the ceramic is a little bubbled in places to give it extra texture. And it's just kind of a unique standalone piece that is functional when we want it to be, but beautiful day to day. So Yond Interiors started in 2020. We take clients on nationwide. So we have clients ranging from New York to California to Sun Valley, Idaho to Minnesota. And all of our clients are people who are, I always say, design-minded. So they themselves are interested in how a space feels and how it comes together, and they're invested in creating something special to them. Our projects range from ground-up new construction, where we're doing all of the hard finish selections like plumbing and tile, to all of the furniture. And some projects, it's a renovation of a house that people have loved for years, and we're just kind of giving it its new life. All of our projects at this time do involve, the construction aspect and the furniture aspect, and that's where I feel like we're able to do our best work, because we're able to marry all of the different finishes and kind of textures and all of that goes into a home to really give it like a complete final look. It's not uncommon for people to struggle kind of putting together their home. Even I myself, it's a little bit of a puzzle, that I'm kind of always tinkering with and trying to solve. But when we find that, we're stuck or a client is stuck, some of the advice that I typically give people is like to just kind of maybe stop and step back. I think when you're heavily focused on trying to find the perfect thing or make it, something that's in your brain that you can't quite communicate, sometimes it's helpful to just step back and almost like create a mood board, a physical mood board, an electronic mood board, whatever you want to do, where you can start to layer in things on paper that you might be interested in. And I think that is a safe way to start to explore new ideas, new furniture shapes, new colors, new textures, whatever it might be, in a way that doesn't require commitment. And I think that creating a mood board like that can also include like aspirational images or images that have maybe not necessarily the exact content. So it's not like a dining room and you're designing a dining room. It could be something like a restaurant that you really like, or a place in the world that you visited that is meaning to you. And I think creating kind of sometimes, though, adding in those elements to a mood board really can help provide direction on like, what is it that you're liking? I think it's easy to see themes And like I said earlier, it's really easy then to play with new ideas, like what would it be like if I did this style of dining chair versus this style? And I think it kind of comes to life on its own a little easier when you can like have a bigger vision. Okay, so now we're transitioning into the kitchen, which is only one step away from the dining room. The kitchen is literally the heart of the home. It is the place where we entertain, cook, spend the most time, and it is, you know, again, really open concept. So you see it from the front door. So we were kind of designing the kitchen and thinking about, you know, what we wanted it to look and feel like. The goal was really kind of make it feel almost like a piece of furniture in the house and not like a big kitchen right in the middle. So we intentionally chose, you know, natural materials like soapstone and, you know, tried to create a consistent wall finish, both with, you know, kind of the tile matching the paint on, you know, the perimeter cabinetry, and tried to carve out a space that felt like, you know, it could belong amongst the rest of the house. When we were designing this kitchen, one of the things that was super important to me was a butcher block space. We use it to cut literally everything and anything all day, every day. It is probably the hardest working spot in our kitchen. There's oftentimes at least one person standing here and a child receiving some sort of fruit. But I love it because it, again, adds like a little moment of like, oh, that's unexpected, but it's incredibly functional. The footprint did not change significantly. Again, it's a narrow kitchen and again follows the existing architecture of the home. And so really what we did was we just took out a main wall that was previous between the living and the dining, and then kind of recaptured some of this space for the kitchen. And the kitchen really is hardworking. Like I said, we use it every day, and we really wanted it to be a place of fluidity where you could kind of like walk in and out and kind of access easily. So kind of keeping the material palette, you know, somewhat neutral, but still interesting and textural. Choosing Benjamin Moore Revere pewter for the main cabinets kind of allowed this wall, in my mind, to stay a little quiet. You know, like I didn't want it to be a huge focal point. There's already a lot of cabinetry and a lot of details happening, and quieting down the paint color really felt like I could kind of continue with this kind of like serene, calm vibe I was going for. Then on the island, we painted it Benjamin Moore Midnight. So it's got a little bit more contrast to it. It's like a deep blue, sometimes reads black, certain lights, but it's just got, again, like that kind of earthiness, kind of grounds the space as well. Furniture pieces, again, super important to me that they're interesting but functional. These are a kind of a leather, almost like a sling-like stool with a maple kind of base, and these are made in Philadelphia by a company called Losteen. This is a vintage, I think it's maybe Turkish rug, I'm sure you can correct me, that I just found on Etsy. We like to use vintage rugs that have a lower pile for hardworking spaces because they clean up really well, they don't hold a lot of dirt and grossness, and they, you know, kind of can stand the test of time. So the pendants are just large kind of opaline style globes by Allied Maker. And, you know, the lighting in here was something that was heavily considered because I didn't want it to feel like, oh, every single table has a pendant and they all are the same. So varying lighting shapes was something that was super critical to me as I was designing this house. And I knew that I wanted the most light output put out over the island. And so I chose that fixture first. And chose, you know, kind of a globe that would diffuse light everywhere, give you great task lighting, but also can be dimmed for great ambient lighting as well. And then paired it with other fixtures kind of on the opposite sides of it that were more sculptural and a little less traditional. So creating a sense of space was kind of a trick for this house, given that it's long and lean. And so I wanted to create different kind of moments in the house. And so similar to the living room where it's like a couple different vignettes, this space is also that way. And so you have the main, kind of dining room that's over here. And we chose to not continue the ceiling treatment that's in the kitchen and the sunroom, only because I wanted this space to feel separate and special. So we lime washed the walls that continue throughout the space, but then we also lime washed the ceiling, which I think again gives it like an interesting texture and again creates that kind of delineation between spaces. So it's not all one giant space, but you kind of, when you're in here, you feel like, oh, you're in almost a separate room. So in part of the renovation, we added a main level bathroom that was not previously existing in the home. So that was important to us. So we can have all ages and abilities here. And so by adding this powder room, it was an opportunity for us to, kind of continue the palette and the textures that are happening in other parts of the house, but have a little bit more fun with pattern and wallpaper. So we used the Stack and Fox wallpaper that I love. It's hand painted, so it's got like these little details on it, like you'll notice little bees and kind of little fun things. But then the wall tile is a Zalige, and given that it's a hardworking bathroom, I wanted it to be as durable as possible. So given that it's a powder room, we didn't have a lot of space to work with. So by wall mounting this Waterworks unlacquered brass faucet, it allowed us to kind of maximize the amount of depth that we could get for the sink. And so I custom designed this sink with this kind of larger apron front to kind of show off the awesome marble that we used. And then, kind of added in a little bit of extra storage just with this shelf to hold, hand towels and extra supplies and things. I would say our design approach is extremely reflexive and people specific. So we really aim to create environments and spaces that reflect the people that live there. So similar to my social work background, creating tailor-made spaces. Everybody's different. Everybody has different values and different hobbies and different, priorities. And so the way that we create homes is really responsive to who our clients are. The other element that really informs and shapes a lot of our work is where the home is located. We work in a lot of historic neighborhoods, and we also work on a lot of second properties for people where the goal is adventure or the goal is to fulfill a dream with their family. And so we're often taking cues from what's happening outside to give us some perspective on what should happen inside. All right, so transitioning into the sunroom, eat-in kitchen, and mudroom all in one. We have these great little light switches in unlacquered brass by Forbes and Lomax. So they are meant to look a little messy and a little bit patinaed. And I love that they kind of keep the classic old school nature of this house, but again, incredibly functional for today. The main event of this room is probably twofold. It's one, this giant bypass door that opens into the screen porch, but also this fireplace. So one of the things that was a non-negotiable of the renovation was a wood burning stove. And my husband and I both like the feel of a stove in natural, kind of wood and the process of building a fire. But also the beauty of it and kind of anchoring this room and really making it a destination in the winter was something we thought a lot about. And so the room was really kind of designed around the stove, and the positioning of it then is kind of unique in the sense that, when the door is closed, it feels like it's just kind of in the room. But when the door is open, it feels like it's also kind of part of the screen porch. So the other kind of element of this room is this built-in banquette, sometimes called a breakfast nook. We call it our eat-in kitchen. And it's a place where a lot of kids can collect, a lot of games are played, but this is really kind of the space where, most dinners, at home are had. So my love of vintage furniture runs deep. These are 1970s chairs that are original. We purchased them from Europe and had them shipped over. And what I like about a lot of vintage furniture, wood furniture in particular, wood and leather, is it's super durable. It's already been through a whole lifetime before it came to us. And it's just perfectly patinaed, and I don't have to worry about it at all with my family. These are petite in scale, but are extremely comfortable, and the armrests make you feel like you're sitting in a nice spot that you could spend, a lot of time at without, kind of sacrificing that comfort. So the lighting, as I mentioned earlier, was a heavy consideration for me throughout the house, wanting it to feel sculptural and interesting. And so this fixture kind of, creates almost like its arms around this space. And what I like about it is it's got 3 different light sources, very directional, but also, kind of makes the whole room feel like it's included. We have original hardwood floors throughout the main level of the home. And as we transition into the new space that we added on, we added this black Belgian terracotta tile in this star-crossed pattern. It was chosen for a couple of reasons. One, it's again super hard wearing, can patina over time, it has interesting shape to it, and is also freeze thaw. And so as we were looking to kind of create a continuation between this space and the screen porch, it was critical to me that the flooring between the two matched, so that when you're in here, you also could be in here. And I think the flooring was, is part of creating that cohesive feeling. The other part of this is our main door. And so my family comes and goes from this door every single day. And then these are our main mudroom cabinets. And so this is literally where every seasonal item is stored, and kind of, one of the hardest working spaces of our house. So to connect the two spaces, we added this large bypass sliding oak door from Marvin. And what we love about it is it stacks really nice and neatly behind kind of the stove area and creates this super open concept space between the two, but also offers, kind of that climate closure, so to speak, so that when the winter is here, the interior of the house is all sealed up perfectly. So we added on the screen porch to the house. That was a big part of the renovation project. And we are Minnesotans, and so again, seasonality. There's, a couple of seasons that are really enjoyable and beautiful, and you want to captivate them as much as you can. And so by creating a space where we could kind of extend the seasons was really, really important to us. We're both my husband and I are both outdoor people. And so having a space to kind of be outside and enjoy it as long as possible was the name of the game. And so we created, just again, another little seating area where you could have a conversation, read a book, enjoy being outside, and then again, another dining space so that you could, have an outdoor meal without the bugs or without it being too cold. We did add heaters into the ceiling as well, and so that also really extends the seasons. So being that the porch is kind of more of an extension of the exterior, we continued the exterior color throughout the porch. So the same black color that's on the main body of the house also kind of came through to here in stain colors. And then to not make the space feel too heavy and dark, we chose to clad the ceiling with cedar and kind of give it like a lighter, almost whitewashed sort of look that kind of added like some character to it and a lot of coziness. So I got into interior design and social work both because I feel like there's an importance of how your environment and where you live and spend a lot of your time, how that impacts you. And home to me means a place of comfort, a place of refuge, a place to kind of have, those life moments that not everybody sees. And for me, that means facilitating friends and family over. And it also means giving my kids kind of a place for them to feel safe and comfortable. Thanks, Homeworthy, for visiting my house in Minneapolis. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.